Strong men have a smell. You can search the world over and still not come across a smell like this. It's his favorite aroma. That was what Yujiro Hanma said to his son Baki during their first fight. And Storm Arena. Give us Yujiro Hanma here in all his 1/12th glory, ready to smell strong men all over the place and do battle with the fiercest warriors in your action figure collection. So first off, let's have a look at the packaging, and it's a really nice package. Ooh, matron. A nice pic of Yujiro on the front of the package, a window package displaying the figure inside, 2 sets of hands and an extra head which are all visible, which is good. The name of the anime the character is from, which is Baki Son of Ogre. Available to watch on Netflix here in the UK. And I'll get into what Baki is about later in the video, so it's a really nice and simple yet very attractive package. The top of the package keeps things nice and minimal. Storm Arena and Baki Son of Ogre name on the top. The sides of the package have some nice artwork of the character in action figure form. And Japanese letters known as kanji, at least I presume it's Japanese, forgive my ignorance, if not. The back of the package really gives us a nice look at all the poses this action figure can achieve. And believe me, this guy poses really easily and smoothly. But again, that's something we are going to get into later in the review. Same on the other side of the box. And something that made me chuckle on the bottom of the box. Storm Arena would like you to please be noticed, as they state at the bottom of the box. That's nice of them. It also says, it may be harmful if swallowed. I'd confidently say, Storm Arena. It'll definitely be harmful if swallowed, unless you're a psychopath who eats action figures. And to be honest, you're not long for this world. If so, I imagine. Right. So, the packaging is pretty nice. And the inside of the packaging offers a cardboard insert that can be used as a cardboard pack drop and diorama. So nice work from Storm Arena on the packaging front. So sit back, grab some snacks, make yourself comfortable for this Storm Arena Yujiro Hanma review. My first Storm Arena figure. And I can tell you now, not my last by a long shot. Yak adi yak, here's tak tak. Right. So have you seen Baki before? It's essentially an anime which is about the world's most dangerous criminals escaping from their maximum security prisons to fight the world's most accomplished martial artists, of which Baki happens to fall into as a schoolboy. It's essentially a Mortal Kombat style tournament, and it's very watchable. Yujiro Hanma is the father of Baki and the primary antagonist of the series. So Yujiro is fierce, arrogant, and violent. So with all that in mind, let's get some first impressions on the Storm Arena version of the character. So this is actually 1/12th scale, first off, compared to Storm Collectibles, which stated it was 1/12th but was easily 1/10th scale, and sometimes even larger than that. So Yujiro here might actually seem a bit small, as his character is an absolute giant. But we are going to do some comparisons with other action figures to get an idea of scale. And if you've ever had any Storm Collectibles in your collection, you know what to expect here, but actually, in my opinion, Storm Arena here is even better. And Storm have said going forwards that Storm Arena will be the main focus, with Storm Collectibles taking a back seat by comparison, so expect more. 1/12th scale figures from Storm in their Arena line to come. Okay, so first impressions of my first Storm Arena. Now you're probably watching this review having seen reviews for Storm Arena, for Street Fighter Alpha 3, Ryu and Ken. And maybe Baki Yujiro as well. And I think Storm Arena, Ryu and Ken will be on a lot of collectors' top 10 figures of 2025. And I'll be honest, after opening Yujiro here, I can see why. I missed Ryu and Ken. They are completely sold out here in the UK, but still available on Big Bad Toy Store. But after seeing all the hype online, I knew I wanted to get a Storm Arena figure in hand. I saw D Amazing's review of Yujiro, and that sold me on getting a copy. I got mine from Comics and Cocktails, and he's still available if you want to snag yourself a copy. I'll leave a link in the comments below. And bloody hell, man, I have to say this figure is bloody good. I mean, what's so clearly evident upon opening the package and having a hands-on play with the figure is how quality it is and how much it feels like an import for a domestic price. I genuinely don't know how Storm Arena have managed to do this, unless they were simply willing to make cuts in profit for the sake of quality at a more affordable price for the collector and competition from Jada Toys. So I've only had the Jada Street Fighter figures up to this point, and they are amazing figures for an excellent price point. And they managed to make Storm Collectibles look on the back foot when they came out, as they were cheaper than Storm Collectibles. Really good value for money, and looked like they were going to complete the Street Fighter 2 roster. Something which Storm Collectibles suffered from failing to do with a lot of its lines. Storm Collectibles also stated on their packaging that their figures were 1/12 scale, but they were much bigger than that. Anyway, Storm Collectibles announced the Storm Arena line, which was proper 1/12 scale figures with a range of lines that they had been doing, including Street Fighter. No doubt as they had seen what Jada Toys had been doing. And the rest is history as we fast forward to some of the first figures we have received from Storm Arena, which have been absolute bangers. And it just shows healthy competition in the action figure industry is great for us collectors. Yujiro continues that trend by being an absolutely excellent figure. As I mentioned, I'm used to Jada Toys for my fighting game figures, and whilst this is an anime figure based on fighting, it really has an import feel to it with sharp details compared to the more soft details of Jada and lovely paint apps. And here we see Yujiro fighting Cobra troops. I mean, I'm no poser of action figures, but you can see how easy this guy is to pose, as I've been able to throw this guy into a pose for some toy photography for this review with no problem at all. The figure has a lovely finish to him. Like I say, the paint apps look really good, and Yujiro looks like he jumped right out of the Baki anime and into action figure form. He has great definition just like the anime. It's so hard to believe that this guy is in the same price bracket as things like Marvel Legends and Star Wars Black Series. And as we saw Yujiro fighting Cobra troops, let's do a comparison with the Cobra Infantry Trooper. And Classified is objectively or subjectively maybe one of Hasbro's best lines. Arguably Marvel Legends is the most popular. But maybe Classified and Jada Toys Street Fighter. Mega Man and Scooby-Doo are some of the best figures out there at the $25 price point. Or approximately that price. But Storm Arena could easily end up being the company to watch within that price bracket in 2026. They have already come out swinging with their first releases. And then from the Cobra Infantry Trooper, let's compare Yujiro to the Cobra Retro Card Trooper. So yeah, here is the Cobra Retro Card Trooper. And he's basically a more classic version of the Cobra Trooper. As you would expect, D Amazing did a review of Yujiro Hanma with the thumbnail showing Yujiro fighting Marvel Legends Skrulls. And that gave me the inspiration for my pick of Yujiro fighting Cobra troops. So shout out to D Amazing. And question for you guys watching the review, are you an army builder? Do you collect Classified, and if so, what's the biggest army in your collection? Let me know in the comments below. And then from G.I. Joe Classified Cobra troops in a few different formats, we move to arguably one of the best there is. Bub, well, I like him anyway. Marvel Legends Secret Wars Wolverine. And I'm actually a really big fan of this Wolverine Secret Wars. Wolverine was the first time I saw Wolverine as a character and an action figure back in the 80s when I lived in the Middle East briefly. And another child at my international school had the figure of Secret Wars Wolverine from Mattel. and I remember being mesmerized by the design of the character Wolverine upon seeing him for the first time at that young age. And so this figure has a personal nostalgia for me. And yeah, he might come with his flaws, but I like him. Bub! I also got him on discount from Inderman Toys, so that helps. I had been after him for a while. But with this comparison, you really see what we as collectors are used to from domestic companies, with Marvel Legends compared to pushing the envelope and boundaries with Storm Arena. And then from Marvel Legends Secret Wars Wolverine, we jump over to G.I. Joe, classified again for a comparison with Starduster, my favourite G.I. Joe classified figure and leader of the TAC pack. And if you're enjoying this video and want even more content, feel free to become a member and join the TAC pack. Or if you like, just smash the like button and the hype button so that YouTube can share this Storm Arena Yujiro Hanma review with other people who may enjoy it. Any support you can provide in any way is always greatly appreciated. Right, we have done a few comparisons and there is more to come. Let's pose Yujiro out a bit and then have a look at his articulation. So as you can see here, I've posed Yujiro up in a stance ready for battle. I've also swapped out the head and hands for the calmer, more stoic head expression and open palm hands. Now, one thing I will say, Storm Arena heads seem really easy to swap out, at least with my first Storm Arena figure, Yujiro. Here, compared to Storm Collectibles, which I always found it a nightmare to swap the heads, so that's a big improvement. On Storm Collectibles, the neck peg would come out of the soft torso or fall inside it on some of my Storm Collectibles figures. And I've also swapped out the hands. Now I must apologise, I thought Yujiro came with two sets of the same open palm hands, but they are slightly different. So he comes with two heads, one with an animated expression and this one with the more neutral expression, and two sets of open palm hands and a set of fisted hands. So less accessories than a Storm Collectibles figure, but that is reflected in the price. So anyway, this is a bit of posing and showing the different head and hand options that Yujiro comes with. As I say, he does actually come with two sets of open palm hands, which I thought were the same and didn't show here because I thought they were the same, but they aren't. The joys of action figure reviewing. Well, we are only human. And here we see Storm Arena Yujiro getting into a few poses and fighting Cobra troops. He's a busy boy, this Yujiro fella, I can tell you. Well, with that in mind, let's have a look at his articulation. And so this is where Storm Arena shines. Because if you have ever had any Storm Collectibles figures, you will know how good the articulation can be. Sometimes the older Storm Collectibles figures had quality control issues, but the new ones were much better. Anyway, all the good articulation of the newer Storm Collectibles figures is here, but down for a fraction of the price. So the head can look all the way round in a 360-degree motion. His hairstyle, namely his mullet at the back of his head, may limit the articulation a bit. I actually forgot to show the head going up and down, so apologies about that. A nice soft torso that Storm is known for. Basically the maximum Hulk style torso, but that works. Butterfly joints with a lovely range of motion, shoulder rotation and double jointed elbows that are lovely and smooth, 360-degree wrist rotation, amazing range of motion at the torso. I mean, look at that. Drop down hips at the legs, thigh cuts and double jointed knees that can kick his own back, let alone his own ass. Shout out to Robo for the kick his own ass analogy, ankle pivot or rocker, whatever you prefer to call it, and toe joint articulation. The joints move super smoothly, and the inclusion of toe joint articulation does give Yujiro that extra appeal and ability when it comes to posing that imports like Mafex have, and some Spider-Man Marvel Legends figures have even enjoyed. And speaking of Spider-Man, a comic book character, you know a figure is good when Yujiro can pose like a comic book character. Or a manga one in this case. So just going through the articulation again for all you articulation junkies out there, the head can look all the way round in a 360-degree motion. His hairstyle, namely his mullet at the back of his head, may limit the articulation a bit. A nice soft torso that Storm is known for. Butterfly joints with a lovely range of motion, shoulder rotation and double jointed elbows that are lovely and smooth, 360-degree wrist rotation. Amazing range of motion at the torso. I mean, look at that! Drop down hips at the legs, thigh cuts and double jointed knees that can kick his own back, let alone his own ass and ankle pivot or rocker, whatever you prefer to call it. And toe joint articulation. And let me know in the comments, do you pose you figures and do some toy photography? Do you like to pose them up on the display in your collection? I tend to have mine all lined up. Doing a conga in my collection, and then I pull them out of the collection to have little battles with. And if you're enjoying this review so far or feeling tempted to pick up your first Storm Arena figure, be it Yujiro or one of the Street Fighter guys, let me know in the comments below. And I mentioned Spider-Man earlier, didn't I? Well, here's Storm Arena Yujiro next to Renew Your Vows. Marvel Legends Spider-Man, and as you can see, this is... Yujiro might seem small, as he's probably meant to be more Sagat size, around 6'3" at least, or even 7 foot. Ironically, Storm Collectibles made their 1/12 figures too big, and here Storm Arena have made Yujiro very small. Now, if you're a big fan of Baki, you might find this frustrating, but I personally can live with it. And the anime shows the characters drawn from different angles and perspectives anyway. It's not a deal breaker for me, but it might be for you. So it's just something to be aware of. And Spider-Man is a bit posed up here. So here's a shot of Storm Arena, Yujiro and Marvel Legends. Spider-Man standing side by side in vanilla, poses for height comparison. And from everyone's favourite wall crawler, we go to the heroes in a half shell for our next comparison. And so here is Yujiro next to the NECA Last Ronin figure. I really like this NECA Last Ronin figure. It's not the Last Ronin more traditional look. And if you don't know the identity of the Last Ronin, go have a read of the comic. It's very good. So this comparison in particular may look a bit weird, as the turtles have often been portrayed as smaller than your average human. And Yujiro is anything but your average human. However, like I said, I don't mind the height inaccuracy with Yujiro. He's a buff guy. And that can make him more squat than he should maybe be, in my opinion. But it just depends on how you feel, as I mentioned before. And the Turtles started off in comics dark and gritty before going to animation. And let's compare this anime character Yujiro to another anime character who also appears in manga of the same name. Dragon Star's Dragon Ball. Z Cell pits himself up against Yujiro next. Cell is my favourite Dragon Ball Z character. He's just so unusual. He's an insect android life form as far as I'm aware. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. And Dragon Stars is the more affordable line compared to SH Figuarts Dragon Ball Z, which is more high-end. And it's crazy to think this Dragon Stars figure and Storm Arena were at a similar price point, and yet the Storm Arena Yujiro has more in common in terms of high-end articulation and smooth joints with the SH Figuarts Dragon Ball. Z figures, which are $60 to $80 compared to the Dragon Stars ones. And Storm Arena figures are only $30 approximately. And we go from Bandai's Dragon Stars Dragon Ball Z line to Sparrow Toys The Animal Warriors of the Kingdom next. And I do always say this in my reviews, but Animal Warriors of the Kingdom is a really slept-on line in my opinion. The joints and articulation is so smooth, and Sparrow Toys, Animal Warriors figures are around the $30 price range, just like Storm Arena. So it really shows what is possible and what can be achieved without breaking the bank, which is becoming ever more important for us collectors. Animal Warriors of the Kingdom are generally available via props and replicas in the UK and Big Bad Toy Store and Sparrow Toys' own site in the US. And both of those also ship internationally. So, have you got any Animal Warriors of the Kingdom figures in your collection? Let me know in the comments below. And from the Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, we go to an action figure line that again can be slept on. But it's getting better and better, and that's Masterverse. Here's Stinkor. He's a figure I always wanted as a kid, and here he is in 6 to 7 inch glory, given a few modern updates. But the character is recognisable as the counterpart to his 80s version from the original Masters of the Universe line. And the Animal Warriors of the Kingdom is a line that can complement and support Masterverse. If you like that sort of thing, you lovely, lovely people. And then from Eternia, we go to Chandelou Island for a comparison that seems quite appropriate. Jada Toys Street Fighter M Bison or Vega. If you're in Japan, stacked up against Storm Arena, Yujiro Hanma. And as you can probably see here, comparing the Jada Toys M Bison to Storm Arena Yujiro, you can see that Storm Arena have very sharp and pronounced features in the sculpt compared to softer features on the Jada Toys Street Fighter figures. It really depends what you want in your collection. Yujiro looks like he just stepped out of the anime, whilst M Bison is more of a tribute to the artwork and looks from the Capcom Street Fighter video games and artwork rather than a direct translation. But you immediately know it's M Bison. And if you know the Baki anime, you'll know Yujiro. And even if you don't, he's just a really great figure. And here's the stand that comes with Yujiro. This is the most useless part of the accessories for me. I will just be putting this stand in a box and forgetting about it. But if you want a stand for him, there you go. You could say, I can't stand this stand. Little dad joke for you there. And we saw Spider-Man and Secret Wars Wolverine from Marvel Legends in a comparison with Storm Arena Yujiro. And for all the latest Marvel Legends news and reviews, check out Dan Who Reviews. And that leads us to some shout-outs. Feel free to check out Jay's Toys Collection UK and Justin Collects. And as I mentioned, I picked up Storm Arena Yujiro from Comics and Cocktails, and I'll leave a link in the comments below. At the time of this video, Yujiro is in stock and still available for purchase. Okay, so let's have some overall thoughts for Storm Arena Yujiro Hanma from Baki Son of Ogre. And as you can probably tell from earlier in the video, this figure is very impressive. It's got a very detailed sculpt, which faithful captures Yujiro's impressive physique, if not his height. It's a faithful portrayal of the character's stylized design and larger-than-life muscle definition. What is so impressive is that Storm Arena have been able to give us a figure of this quality for this price point. It shows that competition is a great thing for us collectors, as Jada Toys came along first and showed what is possible for great value at a great price. And Storm Arena must have taken notice and taken that idea even further. Street Fighter Alpha 3 Ryu and Ken are completely sold out here in the UK, so it's obviously working. And really it's making companies like Super 7 Ultimates or even Hasbro look like they need to be much better value for money. Granted, Super 7 Ultimates may come with a lot of accessories, but I'm personally okay with less accessories from Storm Arena for the quality they give us. This Storm Arena Yujiro makes me really excited for Baki from Storm Arena, and I was aware of Baki. I'd watched quite a few episodes of the anime, but by no means is this a favourite character of mine. But the figure is so good that it's just a fantastic action figure. Even if you don't know much about the character, that's sometimes the sign of a great action figure. When you can enjoy it for being a great collectible or toy, aside from or regardless of any media it might be attached to. But of course, they always help build attachment and excitement for action figures from our favourite media properties at the same time. It really comes down to, can you deal with the size of the character being smaller than he should be? And I can personally... You can always put Yujiro in fighting stance poses and use forced perspective in toy photography to make his size work, so it's something that you can work around. Something to bear in mind is that import figures can sometimes be true 1/12 scale compared to domestic lines like Marvel Legends, which can run around 6.75 inches. So it's possible Storm Arena Baki figures have been scales, with import figures scale in mind. So it's time for a score, I think. And overall, I'm going to give Storm Arena Baki Son of Ogre Yujiro 9.9 out of 10. And yes, apart from the height, and maybe the hair hindering the articulation a bit, I personally really can't see anything wrong with this figure. If you're a Yujiro fan, you need this figure in your collection. And even if you're just a fan of quality 1/12 scale action figures and you have no attachment to Baki, this guy is worth picking up and adding to your collection. The only thing that may stop you is if he doesn't really fit into what you collect, or because there is so much choice out there and ever-increasing limited budgets, you may have to pass on him for something you collect more regularly. But I would argue to pass on by something you usually collect and give Storm Arena Yujiro a try. I really don't think you'll be disappointed at all. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed this review of Storm Arena Yujiro from Baki. Let me know if you have any Storm Arena figures in your collection, what you have. If so, I appreciate there's probably only 3 to choose from at the moment: Street Fighter Alpha or 03 Ryu, and Ken, and Baki Yujiro. That's probably another concern. Storm aren't known for finishing lines with their Storm Collectibles license, so hopefully that will change with Storm Arena, or let me know what Storm Arena figures have been announced that you're excited for. Storm had the license for Mortal Kombat in their Storm Collectibles line. They would make some quality Storm Arena Mortal Kombat figures. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view, Todd McFarlane is currently making Mortal Kombat. So I don't know if more than one company can hold the Mortal Kombat license. But it seems like there is promising things to come from Storm Arena. I hope you enjoyed my take on Storm Arena. Baki Son of Ogre Yujiro, and until next time, enjoy those flicks and figs.